Hello and welcome to episode 38 of When the Flames Go Up, the ATFC podcast. As this episode turns 38, no, as this podcast turns 38, uh, and you may be listening to this on Sunday. But anyway, just want to say happy 30th birthday, not 38th, 30th birthday to Dan, friend of the show, usually with me for most of those away games that we managed to get to on the trains. Always a pleasure. Have the best weekend.
Well, can I keep the presents and still be 29?
Come on, Reg. Look, turning 30's not that big a deal.
Oh, really? Is that how you felt when you turned 30?
Why, God, why? We had a deal. Let the others grow old, not me.
Great. That's that one done. And yeah, well, I mean, you can send in your happy birthday requests. Happy to read them out. Not sure it's not got the same gravitas as, I don't know, Trevor McDonald or Peter Drury. I mean, I could do it in the style of if you wanted me to. Not not gonna riff on that right now. Yeah. So this episode we've got Julian has come on to discuss the Bradford game, and then Guy and Ian join us later to talk about Wealdstone at the weekend, which is a 12:30 kickoff. Don't forget. And we've also had a letter in, which we didn't get round to in the episode, which you'll find out because I mean we basically um yeah we ran it very tight to the 40 minutes on Zoom, which is a little peek behind the curtain. But Martin Sawyer gets in touch, so thank you very much. You can get in touch by emailing atfcpodcast@gmail.com. And maybe you can riff on what Martin says. He says, "Hi chaps, I enjoy listening to the podcast. Thank you very much, Martin. For me, the front line is sadly lacking a goal getter, which would get the fan base back on side. It's interesting because we do mention in this episode kind of where we are fan base wise. What's the actual mood saying? Um, this calendar year thus far, Ollie Bray has, I believe, only made two sub-league appearances versus Woking on New Year's Day and Maidenhead in the 4-3 game. As you alluded to, James Henry is a step up in quality from this level, but he'd be the perfect foil for a striker like Fisher from Bath City, who might be worth taking a chance on. Best wishes. Best wishes to you, Martin. Thanks for getting in touch. So yeah, I mean, to be honest, I mean, we've said it quite a few weeks in a row that I mean, Kwame Thomas gets a mention quite a lot, but just a different option is seems to be the way that we were that the fan base wants to frame the lack of goals recently. But hopefully that ends on Saturday at home to Wealdstone. Anyway, that was enough garbling on from me, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Up the shots. So we're going to start tonight talking about the game at the weekend, the FA Cup first round tie away at Bradford for the Shots, um, which was eventually a 3-1 defeat. But Aldershot did go ahead with Jack Barham, set up by Josh Barrett, to give the visiting 431 or two something to cling on to, a bit of hope. And then just 18 second half minutes it took for Barham to score their goal, Bradford to score their three goals with three. Well, we'll get on to it, I'm sure. Mistake laden goals that gave Bradford the advantage, but not before Tyler Frost had probably the only other big chance of the game at 1-1, where he rounded the keeper but was unable to put it away. Julian, you were there on Saturday. How was your day out, and what did you make of the cup tie?
Yeah, thanks, Will. Yes, I was there. It was a really good day. I really enjoyed it actually. Uh, didn't matter what the result was in a way. It was just a really special day out. Driving there, drove back, had a few tunes on in the car, made a real day of it. But I'm so glad I went, Will, because if you didn't have a radio commentary and you just saw that we'd gone 1-0 up and you saw that we'd lost 3-1, I think you would have just expected us to have been almost like our usual self and not playing great at all. But I was really pleased with the performance, even though we lost 3-1. I thought we were absolutely excellent in the first half. And second half, was, I think Tyler Frost mentioned it in his words. It was a game of moments, and I think it was just that sort of that little bit of nous, perhaps that Bradford had, that EFL nous, if you want to call it that, where they just did the right things at the right time, and they took advantage of some of the situations that we found ourselves in. But it was a really good first half performance. There was some really interesting comments from the Bradford supporters after the game, actually. They were saying that they were really impressed with how we played. They were really just glad to get through the game. They were really surprised at how well we were controlling the game. And quite a few of the supporters afterwards were saying, nice things, good luck for the season, hope you go up, those sorts of things. But also just wanted to mention while I'm thinking about it, the support that was there on Saturday, because again, Bradford supporters in general were really impressed. Typically, a League Two side don't bring that many, and they were so impressed with the support that we offered as well. It was a long way to go for potentially a not extremely attractive tie, and they were really impressed with our support. So each and every one of us that were there, I think hats off to those. But I'll throw it back to you, Will. Actually, what did you think of the first half performance?
Yeah, I've written down here. Yeah, the first half was great. I think, yeah, I think I know. It seems to me that Theo was playing slightly deeper compared to Frost and Hargreaves, so it gave him a little bit more room. I think he's not really had room, and he was just able to spread the play a bit more. So it meant we had a bit more of a transition between where we've seemed to get stuck between the defense giving the ball to the forward players. And I think it really shows when you've got Barrett kind of playing. He was playing up at the top, but it was dropping deeper than Barham was. He was staying on the shoulder. It just seemed like we had a few more transitions between those two, and with Tyler Frost driving as well, driving forward and getting 10 yards past the midfielder or past a line. I think just really, yeah, it just looked like we were going to create something a bit more most of that game, and we were a little bit on the counter attack, but I think that's how you're going to set up against a comfortable on the ball team like Bradford.
I
Um,
think it was
yeah,
really interesting that we were talking last week actually about formations, and I was looking for potentially two up front, and I think it's the first time he's tried that this season, and I think the formation really suited Frost and Hargreaves, who, as you said, were just slightly in front of Theo. I'm sure that Theo had more time than he's ever had before. I don't know whether it's an EFL thing or perhaps there's just less time in the National League, but it was almost like he was orchestrating the play. He was able to receive the ball and have time to actually then look up and make a decision. But the interesting thing for me was that we've talked about this sort of Barrett and Henry conundrum all season, haven't we? And do they work together? Do they not work together? And I don't think he would have fitted into this new way of being. There was essentially three midfielders, wasn't there? Three central midfielders, which, as you said earlier on, just allowed Frost and Hargreaves to bomb forward. And I thought Frost was absolutely superb. Okay, he missed the chance in the second half, but I just loved the fact that he was driving forward, bringing other players into play as well. And yeah, I was calling for sort of two up front last week, and it was nearly two up front, wasn't it? Josh Barrett was just, I think you described it, Will, as like a deep lying centre forward, and again, that's how the first goal came about. It was a little steal from one of our centre backs, ball pinged forward to Josh Barrett, who just sort of stepped forward, created some space, knew where Barham was straight away, pinged a lovely ball over to him right in front of him. So Barham was able to run forwards, which was great. He didn't have his back to goal. He was fronting forwards. Nice little sidestep inside the central defender. And where I was standing, we were right behind it. And beautiful left-footed bend on the ball, top corner. And I think the latest term is there were limbs. There were limbs everywhere. It was a great moment. And for the rest of the first half, I didn't feel as if we were in particular trouble. I know that Bradford did have some chances. You could argue that perhaps they did miss one or two chances, but I felt quite comfortable at half time. But I knew that come second half, their manager Alexander was going to he was going to spot the weaknesses. And for me, that space in behind our wing backs was our Achilles heel. And those central midfielders, they were both just pinging the balls inside to that space behind our wing backs. And at least two of the goals, probably possibly even all three of them, were attributable to a ball in behind the defence. And ultimately, it was our undoing, I think.
Yeah, yeah, those three goals. You've got the first one where it's a ball over the top, and Dewhurst has tried to get there ahead of I think Kavanagh runs forward from midfield. He managed to gets a toe on it before Dewhurst. So a tiny little moment there. And it goes through to Verdane Oliver, who didn't look like he could hit a barn door with a banjo the entire game. It looked like some of our strikers in the Football League when we were struggling to score. But he managed to roll home the kind of equaliser. And then you had the own goal, which was, again, in from, this time in from the right, which a cross that was deflected into the path of Macoma. Caught between two minds of trying to get it out, getting something on the ball. And then, I mean, inexplicably, it somehow goes rolling in the middle of the goal where Dewhurst already moved the other way to react to it, the deflection. And then the third one was just a little Menezes mix up. I mean that was a little bit inexplicable as well. Just kind of just turning on the ball, and I mean, I think he loses it like twice in that same little bit. He gets it back, and you think, "Oh, go on, just punt it up, get it away," and he doesn't, and they end up. I think that was Kavanagh eventually who just drilled in, to make it 3-1, and yeah, yeah, that
That's
was
that sort of EFL nounce that I was talking about before, because Kavanagh actually hasn't scored all season. And yet he just found that little pocket of space from that mistake for Menezes, a little pocket of space, danced past one or two players, and then just struck a beautiful shot, to be fair. And that was his first goal of the season. So that's the difference, I guess, between our level. One of the other things I was going to mention as well is that that ball in behind the wing backs automatically turns our defenders, and so our defenders are facing goal. And of course, if you've got a central defender facing goal, there's more of a chance of him scoring an own goal, and that's exactly what happened with Makoma. He was running back towards goal, and the deflection changed it. But that's what's going to happen if the balls are going in behind the wing backs. And fair play to Bradford, they sussed us out, and it was a different story, to be fair, in the second half.
Yeah, it did feel like that second goal did kind of kill the game. I think because it came after the Frost chance as well. You felt like if we are gonna, go through on goal, I mean, brilliant ball through as well, to put Tyler Frost in. But if that goes in, or we don't concede in the next 10 minutes or something, or there's a chance for us to get back in the game properly. But yeah, how did you see Tyler Frost's chance? Because I wrote down that once I saw the replay again, I didn't really realize he went that wide. I know the second touch was heavy. I didn't realize how heavy, and then the kind of touch past the keeper does take him really wide. Whereas in person, it looked like it was easier to score. I think it was actually quite a difficult like finish, really.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you get a more of a realistic view on the TV shot. I think he did everything right. He could have perhaps slotted it past the keeper, but that keeper is an experienced EFL goalkeeper. We haven't mentioned it yet, but he pulled off a tremendous save at the end of the first half, which again kept them in it.
Mhm.
Corner came across, and bullet header from us, and he got down low to his right hand side and just palmed it away. And then we followed that up with an equally just as good chance as well. And so it could have been a 2-0 half time. I'm not sure it would have changed the outcome of the game, actually, because I think Bradford were going to come out all guns blazing anyway. So didn't really change it. But I think if Frost had scored that goal, then that could have changed possibly. But I don't think he did much wrong, really. made a good decision to go around the goalkeeper. Yeah, perhaps he was holding his head in his hands. Perhaps if he tried that 10 times, he would probably score six or seven of them. It was just not to be. And, he got a great round of applause from the supporters. We all appreciated what a great game he'd had. And
Mm.
I think that's the bit you have to remember really is that performance. What's really interesting for me is that looked so effective in the first half, that new formation. And I'm just wondering whether that's going to appear again or whether it was just a one-off. I don't know. I don't know whether it's just
Yeah,
a.
it's
What do you
interesting. I
think?
was trying to think, yeah, as I was thinking about looking ahead, I suppose, to Wealdstone, but I think at home, but I don't think we give ourselves that much space. I think we tend to try and push up the defense as quickly as possible, get them up to the halfway line. Obviously, that squeezes the space that we have, but I think we were trotting up to probably the centre circle, giving us an extra 10 yards for Theo to sit in that space. So I don't know if potentially we just don't push up as high to give us that room. Because yeah, we looked like we had loads more room and obviously loads of room for Theo. But it depends, I suppose, if another team matches us with three midfielders, central midfielders, then maybe you wouldn't get um wouldn't get that extra space. But yeah, the
And I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that you wouldn't get Barrett and Henry playing in that same formation as well. I don't think because Henry's not, for all his skills, he's not a burst forward at pace every 2 minutes, is he?
Mm,
So whether or not he would be, I'd like to see him alongside Barham in that same formation because of his creativeness.
yeah.
But I'm not sure we'd see both of Barrett and Henry in the same team if that formation was to stay. The other thing as well is that Bradford had obviously decided not to press, so they were quite happy to sit in their own half and give Theo the time to make his decisions. That always doesn't happen in the National League, so
Mm,
it's horses for courses, isn't it? And it'd be interesting to see, bearing in mind, Wealdstone's amazing result at the weekend. It'd be interesting to see how we line up for that one too.
I think that about covers it, doesn't it? An unfortunate win, but yeah, but a positive performance we can probably put that down to. With plenty of goal chances at least. Right, I'm gonna yeah. So the bridge between the FA Cup first round and Wealdstone at home at the weekend is on the train up to Bradford, um, from King's Cross to Leeds, which is where we made our change to get to Bradford. There was four Wealdstone fans just sat opposite us. Um, so they had a lovely day out. They got a late winner away at Grimsby. And we ended up on the same train home with them as well, which was quite weird to see them all say goodbye. So I wonder if they'll also be at Aldershot at the weekend. Hopefully not to get their first league away win of the season. Um, yeah, and they've got Wycombe Wanderers at home in the second round. So quite a nice little tie for them. Going to come to you first, Ian. How are you feeling against? How are you feeling? And also, how are you feeling ahead of Saturday's game against Wealdstone? 12:30 kickoff. That's the other thing to remember.
Yeah, Wealdstone feels like most games we've had since April, where we've had the visit of somebody in the bottom four, and we're thinking what a good opportunity to kind of stop the rot and get 3 points going. And yeah, Wealdstone feels very much like the games we had against what was it, Boreham Wood, Dorking towards the end of last season. I'm hopeful that yeah, Wealdstone would have enjoyed themselves in the cup, and that when it comes to the bread and butter of the league, that we're in a position to do what most teams have done. I worked for a few years in Rayners Lane, and there was quite a few Wealdstone attendees in the office I worked in, and still in touch a little bit with them on Facebook. And they said it's going to be a very long and difficult season for them. So yeah, I'm really hoping that the magic of the cup for them is confined to the magic of the cup, and that this league visit for Aldershot is what we need to get our season, get us looking up the table. Because I haven't been on for a few weeks, but it does feel like if Aldershot don't win this one, things might get a little bit little bit raucous, bit fractious potentially.
Yes, that simmering energy might overspill a little bit if with a defeat at home to Wealdstone at the weekend. So yeah, as you say, they're in the bottom four currently. They've had one league win in five, which is the same as the Shots. Conceded the same number of goals, 25, but have scored just 14 in 16 games so far. And yeah, it seems likely it's going to be a close game because four of their six draws this season have been away from home. And only three games in the entire season have had a more than two goal um, scoreline defeat, which was against York, Barnet, and Yeovil, who are all sitting in the top seven. Every other game has been by the odd goal, so it's going to be, yeah, seems to be trending towards a tight game. Um, Julian, what are your thoughts ahead of Wealdstone on the weekend?
Yeah, I've been talking to a couple of supporters and having an interesting conversation as to whether or not this will effectively define our season. I'm not so sure that that is the case, but having said that, are we looking to just survive this season, or are we looking to push on? Are we looking to get into that top 10 and cause some carnage up there? If we are, then as Ian said, we need to be winning these sorts of games. We've had this conversation quite a few times. Again, as Ian said, we've had this conversation a few times where we all turn up and expect us to beat the bottom 14. I remember last season when we played Wealdstone, we beat them 3-1. I think Josh Stokes scored a couple of goals, or at least scored one goal, I think. But even right up until the last minute, Wealdstone were still doing the normal things that they do. They pass the ball around superbly well, create space, cause problems. Even when we were 3-1 up, I was really nervous, and luckily we managed to see the game out. I know they've changed their manager since then, and they've had a poor start to the season. But you go through some of their players, and there's some quality players in there. So, yeah, does that performance last week give them the boost that they need, the confidence they need to go and get a result at our place? I think it does. I think they're going to be a real match for us. Their two front players are, again, just coming into form at the right time. Sam Ashford, bit of a non-league journeyman. He was sort of 5 or 6 years in the non-league, had a big breakthrough at Crawley 4 years ago. Didn't quite make it there. Went and did a couple of stints in Scotland and Ireland. He's found his club. I think he's found his space, and yeah, he's now scoring goals. The same with Alex Reid as well. Alex Reid has been trying to find a National League club for again the last 5 or 6 years, and I think he's found his club. He's playing well, so it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one. I'm just hoping that we don't go in there with that attitude of we'll be all right. We just need to turn up to win. So I'm really hoping that we really put our scoring boots on and we get some goals for sure.
Or a goal. A goal could be enough because I back our defence to potentially get a clean sheet against. Although you've just said that strikers are starting to come into form. Yeah, the other players. Well, the one player that will be recognisable to most people is Matty Taylor, who's in the dugout. Who yeah he joined in May. Um, who's yeah prime Barclays. So tick him off for any team that he played for. West Ham and Bolton, you can have him for either team, I think. Um, so yeah, I'm sure he, I'm sure in the training ground he's still able to put a few free kicks away. Adrian Mariappa at the back. That surprised me. I don't know where he was last season. I don't know if he was there. He's 38 years old now, but was played for Watford for a fair few years. I think he got a Player of the Season in 2011-12. I was just trying to find out if he was on the pitch for the that mad um Deeney goal, but I don't think he was. I think it was just after that. And then the two main players that I picked out was Max Kretschmar and Enzio Bolsjewin, who I'm pretty sure we've played against every single year since we've been in the National League. Both very high quality players. So those to look out for. Yeah, and Ian, well, we were discussing before the kind of slightly different formation that we deployed at Bradford, which was Theo was a little bit deeper than Frost and Hargreaves ahead of him. Um, what do you? Yeah, well, we're gonna have to talk about the lineup because I mean, I have no idea. I don't think Tommy knows his best 11 right now. But do you expect any changes from that team? We're saying this on the night that we're currently playing in the National League Cup, but the less said about that, the better. So I'm not sure how many of those players have got to play anyway, which is quite annoying. But anyway,
Yeah, isn't it
yeah,
something like seven or something along
yeah.
those
And is
lines?
it the last ma match day of the National League, or is it the last day? Is it because does the FA Cup count in that, weekend thing? I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pass on that one. I'm really not sure.
No.
Um, yeah, I mean, we've obviously got the injury doubts as well, haven't we, at the moment? We do feel like we're not the 11 picks itself, but there isn't a great deal of options, especially when it comes to defence at the moment. Um, yeah, I guess it's tonight. Yeah, maybe how people come out of tonight are all shot in a position where they can sort of ease up and take some people off. So they're playing the game in terms of starting people to satisfy the rules of the National League Cup and earn whatever prize money it comes from it. But yeah, I'm struggling to sort of pick a lineup at the moment. We've obviously had issues with Theo and his suspension, things like that. Magoma unfortunately feels a little bit of a liability at the back at the moment as well, so it feels a risk putting him in. Henry and Barrett both been very good individually, but it doesn't quite work when they play together sometimes, has it? So, do you start Barham because seems to have, when he's played and had the minutes, he's scored recently? Would you be Barham and Henry or Barham and Barrett? Is that too similar?
This is a conundrum. Yeah, it's weird because obviously the front line just picked itself last season. Whoever was fit, we had that top three, and that was never going to change,
Hmm.
no matter what. And now it seems to be a lot more positions are a little bit up in the air. Um, yeah, and yeah, as you said about kind of Maghoma, having Maghoma, Theo, and Aaron Jones in a team does feel like we have at least one walking red card. In the starting 11 at least. Julian, how do you feel about the lineup after what you saw on Saturday and looking ahead to this Saturday?
Yeah, I'd like to keep the same formation because I think it will work, whether it's a cup game or a league game. So I really like the formation on Saturday. Uh, we also had Tetek come back after being a month away. So Tetek for me, again, I think would flourish in that three central midfield slots as well. So, I'm for keeping that. I think, as Ian said, it's a choice of Barham up front plus one other of Barrett or Henry. Bring on Hadi Gandor second half if needed, just to add a bit of add a bit of pace if you like and running. But yeah, we still got Madger as well to see as well. So I'd really like to keep that three central midfielder roles and then getting Tetek and Madger in as well to really see what they can do. And yeah, I think that would give us 3 points on Saturday.
That's the dream. That's the dream. Guy has joined us. Hello, and how are you feeling ahead of Saturday's game against Wealdstone?
Well, hi. I'm sort of a bit mixed at the moment. I kind of feel on the one hand, yes, they are there for the taking. That maybe we can get 3 points. Certainly, we are above them in the table. But in terms of form, Wealdstone's outperforming us at the moment, right? So if you look at the last few games, they've only won in the last 6 games, for example. We've both only won one, but they've managed to get one more draw than us. But also they've scored a few more goals. So and that's if you think about sort of over the season as a whole, it does seem that the bulk of their goals are coming in now. So I think we do need to watch out for them. And in terms of the players that we should be keeping an eye on would be, I think it's Matt Kretschmer, who's I think sort of a left midfielder. Um, Sort of he seems to play drop. They have a centre forward, Alex Reed, but they sort of he play the Krishna he drops back a little bit, so we probably need to keep an eye on him. But in terms of sort of their effectiveness, I mean they aren't outperforming us. I mean we've our play. If you think about James Henry and Josh Barrett, they are much more effective in front of goal. And sort of Wealdstone's players are a little bit below that in terms of effectiveness, but I mean in terms of the rankings. But also, I think if you then look at the betting odds as well, yes, it looks like we have it at the moment. It looks more like an Aldershot victory than a draw or Wealdstone one. But I have noticed that the odds are starting to lengthen a little bit. So I don't know whether that's just someone putting lots more money onto Wealdstone, but it's something to something just maybe someone knows something we don't.
Nice, nice. Yeah, well, I mean, a draw is absolutely that's got to be the one to go for, isn't it? Yeah, if you had any sense, just stick it on nil
Yeah,
nil
but
or 1-1.
the thing
Mm.
is also a draw. It's ironic, isn't it? Because last year we were basically very swashbuckling. We either won or we lost. This year, we seem to be.
Couldn't buy a draw last year.
I know. Now we seem to be cranking them out. So maybe a bit of money on the draw is the way to go.
God, I can't think of anything worse than a draw at home to Wealdstone at the weekend. But it's fine. It's fine. 12:30 kickoff. I'll get myself up for it
Mm.
eventually. I guess it may well be the first sub 2,000 attendance at the weekend, I feel. Um, which probably, yeah, as Ian said earlier, if things don't go well, yeah, you aren't left with much love lost between the people that actually do turn up.
Mm. Well,
The
hopefully the Remembrance Day parade and
mm,
pre-match, a lot of people do like to turn out for that. So I think we will stay north of 2,000, but not being a 3 o'clock probably stops it being 2,500 perhaps.
mm.
Mm,
It was interesting also just looking what Guy said about Wealdstone's recent form. Their previous two league games were effectively your 6 pointers, Ebbsfleet away and Braintree at home, and they got
mm,
4 points from those. Now, I don't think we're in 6 point territory at the minute, but it's one of those where the weeks tick by and we're gradually getting lower and lower, unfortunately. So, yeah, I do worry for a defeat on Saturday or even a sort of lackluster draw.
mm,
Um, there's sort of a lot of goodwill from last year's feels like I don't know if it's more sort of social media shots web type talk.
mm.
What do people here actually feel? Is it overhyped and these voices are amplified?
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's very small doses for Shotsweb, I feel.
Mm,
Um, yeah, because it quickly spirals, and one defeat seems like it's been coming. It's been like this for years. It's always been coming. This defeat has always been bubbling. You're like, well, come on. I mean, it's a game of football, and we've lost on like a couple of human error mistakes or something.
mm,
Yeah, it's
Feeling
tough.
around the EBB at the moment I think, is still positive. You know, as you said, Ian, perhaps if it's a not a great result on Saturday, whether that changes or not, I'm not sure. But I think he still has the backing
mm,
of the vast majority of the supporters. There's always one or two, especially in just behind the dugouts, who give him a bit of a hard time. But again, that's a real small minority. I think that the vast majority of the wreck, as I always call it,
Mm.
is behind him still.
I mean, how much of this as well is down to, I mean, if you think about last year, we just the recruitment was, phenomenal. We did so well in terms of bringing in certain players, and sort of they seem to slot in straight away. And it just feels to me a little bit that I think when you consider last year, we were shipping goals, but also scoring them at the other end. And we have tightened up an awful lot at the
Mm,
back this time round. And actually, the defense and sort of the defensive side seems a lot more solid and a lot more fixed to me. It just seems to me that up front we still haven't quite hit what is our best combination, our best formation at the front. And that's why we have some great players, but we seem to keep chopping and changing, moving them in, moving them out. We haven't seemed to find the right groove for them to play off each other.
mm,
I don't know whether that's a feeling, because and in that sense, if you talk about sort of the goodwill towards the management, I think that's the fact that they took it on board, and sorted out the defensive side of things. Okay, yes, we've lost a few and we've had defense, but we had some backs to the wall performances in the last few games as well. So
mm,
I feel there is still a lot of credit in the bank for me. I don't think, and also don't forget, we're not yet you're not yet at Christmas, so we're not even halfway through the season yet. I mean, yes, form has dipped, but there is still time to turn this around.
mm. Yeah, I was just thinking about the sort of expectation that we had after last season. Maybe that raised them, and we've possibly fallen back to not as far as where we were, because we're definitely not at the sort of depths we were 2 to 3 years ago. And there's a lot to like about the signings. You mentioned the recruitment. A lot of them do look good, but it just hasn't quite happened in an attacking sense. And again, we were so lucky last year with what we saw.
Mm,
We're a year and 1 day on from that incredible performance at Swindon, where it's just one of those things, just everything clicked at once.
mm,
Yeah, yeah. I think last season I definitely had the feeling that with a summer ahead of them that the recruitment would have been more geared towards the exact positions that we needed. I think that's obviously we've switched a lot around. I do feel like we haven't, because we had Glover kind of on that left side. I don't think we replaced him anywhere near like for like. And I think that we kind of I think I mentioned it last week, but how that means we're kind of pushed back. I mean, Glover was always miles forward, basically an extra man in attack. Whereas this season we've kind of got someone that's not that willing to go beyond. And it
mm,
probably helped, with not having got Ollie Harfield beside you or something to also help you get forward.
mhm,
I was
Yeah,
just going to say that actually, Will, that we've lost Ryan Glover and Ollie Harfield, who between them clocked up 100 appearances last season, and we just haven't had that this season. And they had, I think we mentioned it last season in the pod as well. They had such a good relationship. They knew exactly what was going on, a great partnership between them. And if you look at the important partnerships from last season to this season, there just isn't a comparison. Even the midfield partnerships were strong last season, even if we did argue that they weren't that effective. Again, the front three played between them sort of 40 games each. It's those partnerships just haven't probably had the time to gel, changing every week. As you said right at the start, well, I'm not sure Tommy still is comfortable with understanding his best team yet. And I guess that's down to the players. I'm sure he's saying to the players, look, make it difficult for me. This is your chance. Make it really hard for me to not drop you.
yeah,
And I'm sure there's still a few of those players that are still having to fight for their place in Tommy's eyes at the moment.
yeah, definitely. Right, we have to cut it there. The other thing is Solihull Moors means that's postponed away, and it might be postponed at home as well, because if they make it through to the third round, that'll be the 11th of Jan. Thanks, Julian. Thanks, Ian. And thanks, Guy, before it cuts out.